Want to thank the four panelists for I think showing us what the current thinking is within Southern African City, within SACU, on the issue of systems connectivity. And it's clear that technology is such a powerful enabler for our work in customs. It's certainly not the only one, and I'll get to that with the next session, but it's certainly a very important enabler in terms of undertaking our missions. And certainly from a private sector perspective, I think the speakers focused on the benefits that can be derived as well from hooking up customs administrations in the supply chain. We've eaten a little bit already into your coffee break, so apologies for that, but I thought that we really got good value and information from the speakers, so I don't want to cut them too short, but we are running out of time slightly, so I'm going to be a bit stricter in managing the time for the question and answer session, if that's in order with you. So without further ado, let me open up the floor for some questions. I see a hand over there, please. If you can again just introduce yourself and then ask your question.
Thank you very much. I'm Zodwa Mabuza, representing the private sector in Swaziland. I would like to thank all the speakers from the morning presentation and now. My concern, however, is that with all the information that we have and some of the initiatives that have taken place, I'm looking at the rankings of most of our countries in the ease of doing business. And on this aspect of trading across borders, we are doing badly, all of us, including the countries that are operating the single window facility. My question then is, why aren't we improving in that indicator? And perhaps partly answer that, since I'm involved in these issues on a daily basis. I think the presentation by the fellow from SACU sort of hit the nail on the head when he said, this whole thing requires leadership from the individual countries. Once a country realizes the amount of time that will be saved by purchasing these tools and also balancing the need for more revenue and trade facilitation, then we'll be able to address some of the challenges that we have. But I think, in my view, there's a lot that has been developed, and we do need to move, as the private sector, in the countries where we have not introduced it. I think it's upon us to push our governments to acquire these tools and perhaps play our part as well. So that will be the challenge that I will give to my colleagues that are in the House.
Just a very brief reaction to the point you made around political will and that drive to have political will for these things to happen. Very often, I mean, the WCO, we will tell you, I mean, the difficulty is not in the technology per se or what has to be done. I mean, there are so many practices, best practices worldwide. It's very much harnessing that political will, and then the leadership within administrations, but also in the private sector, which is a very important partner and has to be responsible and work with and support as well, a key issue. So thank you very much for underlining that. I also saw a hand over there. Gentlemen, please.
Thank you, Eric. I've got just one question. I think this question may be, let me first of all introduce myself. I'm Tebo Kobedi from Lesotho. I represent the business chamber in Lesotho. Most of the presentations which were done from morning till now, they were addressing mainly big businesses. And being the representative from the chamber, we do have some small and medium. And if I've seen this being the biggest problem, where in forums like this, we address only problems that affect the big or large businesses. We have got small business like the people driving their small cars or bakkies, or the ladies or men who goes to Durban with a combi. And then when they get to our borders, they are expected to go through the clearing agencies. And then you'll find that this person is going to clear goods worth 500 rand. And then she has to pay 50 rand for per invoice. Maybe she has got 3 invoices for the goods she has got. She will have to pay 50 rand per invoice from that clearing agent. And she will spend, say, up to 6 hours to wait for that process. Mind you, she has spent for the accommodation in Durban or Johannesburg, and then she has been in the Kumbi for the rest of the night. When she gets there, it's a problem again. So I think in a forum like this, our presenters must also address how can they be assisted, because if we get to these small borders, especially I'll make an example of our border Maseru. It's a big challenge when you get there. Every day you'll see those poor people queuing there and then paying a lot of money and then being go through the I think I'll say it's fraudulent transaction, because some of the officials will have to ask them to pay bribes so much that they can let them go. So I think that one I would like to know if the panel can address that as well.
Thank you very much for raising a very important issue. That's involvement of all involved in the supply chain. I've asked the Commissioner, Customs Botswana, to also very briefly make some remarks about the involvement of smaller segments of the business community in the work of customs and some of the things that we've been talking about this morning.
Thank you. I think the first point that we need to underline is that it is in their design, the initiatives that we've been discussing since this morning. It was never the intention to leave out the small sector or the informal sector at any point. In fact, I think the intention is that this arrangement should facilitate everybody that is involved in the supply chain, irrespective of their size. But of course, there will be instances where unintentionally, there are traders that could be left out. I think it is also, I think it takes us back to what was said earlier on, that it then becomes very important that, in our engagement in developing these initiatives and implementing them, we, especially in the government sector, should make deliberate steps to ensure that everybody that has to be consulted is consulted, to the extent that they go through the borders with everybody else. And we have an obligation as the leadership within border agencies to ensure that everybody is taken on board. And I believe this is one issue where the engagement will differ from one country to another. But it is always important that we create that window so that when ultimately these things are implemented, we are creating them, or we are implementing them in a manner that those that are in the informal sector ultimately grow enough to become the formal sector. We should not, I think the point being raised is that we should not create an environment where the informal sector becomes marginalized beyond where they currently are. And I just thought, I think it's something that we need to take on board as leaders within the customs and trade facilitation environment.
Thank you very much. And then we've got time for one last question. I apologize for this because I'm really eating into your coffee break now. Mr. Patel, you had your hand up earlier.
Thank you. My name is Kekabat Patel. I am from CTA Mozambique, Confederation of Business Association. As explained this morning, CTA is part of the single window system which is being implemented in Mozambique. I just want to clarify what my dear friend Zodwa has mentioned just now, why we are performing so badly in our rating in the doing business. Just to clarify that in the last publication, the World Bank did not take into consideration that we were implementing because we are not fully implemented yet in the whole country. This will show up next year, definitely, the advantage of being single window being implemented. This is to make it clear. Secondly, just supporting our commissioner from Botswana also, that in Mozambique, the small traders, especially the border traders, what we call the informal traders. Being informal does not mean that they don't have to follow the rules and regulations of a country. So what it means that they are also taken on board. Things are being developed in a way that their organizations are also being heard about what is happening, and they will be following the rules and regulation and simplified matters which will take care at the borders when they have to trade. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see one last hand over there, so I'm going to allow a very last question. But can I please ask you if you can keep it brief, and if you've got a specific question for the panelists, but please keep it brief. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. As you know, my name is Emmanuel Darko. I just have a commentary on one of the presentations made. I believe the essence of this forum is to show that trade facilitation works and that there are tools that are available for people to work. I believe it was not intended to be a hard sell, a forum to be a hard sell advocacy group for a particular product or the other or not. That was done in May 2011 in Seattle. I have a number of times, I take exception to the fact that somebody would come and say, GCNet does not talk to Asikuda. I take exception to the fact that somebody will come and say, I have an integration server, but you don't have. Way back 2006, 2007, we had a reconciliation server that was talking to Cote d'Ivoire, which uses Asikuda. Again, we should be wary of the cloud. Yes, it is positive. If I have Environmental Protection Agency, which hasn't got a server, if I have a free zone board, if I have a transit along the corridor between Ghana and Burkina Faso, who can use this PDA to be able to access data on his declaration or whatever it is? I believe he's working through the cloud. In any case, we should be wary about the cloud and what it portends. Sovereign data is involved. As the name says, it's a cloud. The cloud could portend a good rainfall for our crops. It could contain a tornado. It could contain a windstorm that could bring an avalanche down the line. We should be wary about what we present.
I think that question sort of got everyone woken up. It's nice to have some masala into the mix as well, and I think it's good for our colleagues to reply. Thank you.
Is it on?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's on.
Okay. Thank you for raising this question because that's a subject that is, I think, part of my daily life about security and privacy in the cloud. Well, I can guarantee you that Microsoft's cloud is doing everything to make sure the cloud is 100% secure. We implement, the EU has a special policy. We implement the European model clauses. We are compliant with the US Safe Harbor directive. So you cannot, and you can try, you can actually try, you just cannot go into cloud if you want to basically retrieve data. This is not the case. The cloud is for many industry leaders and many companies a major bet. So if we wouldn't do that decently, well, everybody is going to fail. So we definitely can guarantee that it is secure and it is and there is respect for data privacy. On the other hand, I want to mention the following thing. So there's big discussions about the cloud security and this stuff. But how many of the on-premise, so the systems that you run yourself, if you don't apply the latest patches recommended by your software suppliers or hardware suppliers or your telecom providers, I have many, this is even independent of the cloud, I have seen many hackers stealing information very intensively. So a security policy, being it cloud, being it on-premise in your own locations or whatever, deserves special attention. So that's why I definitely can say from a Microsoft perspective, 100%, there are teams in Microsoft, 24 hours, 7 on 7. These are the red teams that are actually screening the internet to see what's going on special attacks and all this stuff. So to prevent, we can never be successful if we would let people steal information. That would be the end of the company.
Good, thank you very much for that. I think that's a very nice, spicy way to end this session. Just to on your behalf, thank all our panelists and the people who asked questions. Thank you very much for that. I think some very useful things came out of the session to update us on what's happening with interconnectivity between systems in the Southern African region, some useful lessons on the way forward, approach, and alignment as well. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time, and thank you to the panel.
Where are the gifts? Where are they? They don't have gifts.
Program Director, if you would like to lead us on now to approach the coffee break in the session after that.